The other Hindu brothers keep asking him, that's why he's asking these questions. Why is it allowed to marry young girls in Islam?
He's asking, the questioner says, why is it allowed to marry young girls in Islam? The answer is, actually it's not allowed. Who said it's allowed to marry young girls in Islam? It's not allowed to marry young girls in Islam. And for the sake of answering it more, what is young? Young is relative, and young, like I said, is relative. Maybe that's the best way to put it. Relative to time and place and country and person. Right? So legal age in Ontario is what? 16 with consent. That's pretty young. Right? Somewhere else is what? 18. So those people who are 18 in the so-called democratic first world countries, they should look at the people in Ontario and the Ontario legislature and say, you guys, why do you allow young people to get married? Young girls to get married, right or wrong? Because 16 is pretty young, you might say that today. But if a Muslim was to do it, then it will be a case, a huge case. But if everybody is doing it, then it's fine, you know. Young is relative. And a 16-year-old in this place might be young. Somewhere else she might be more mature than a 30-year-old in this other place, right or wrong? All of us know that. People, they mature more. And young also, like we said, physiological is also different. Not just maturity of mind, maturity of body. A 16-year-old in one part of the world is strong enough, mature enough by mind, and is responsible. In another part, especially in this part of the world we live in, a 16-year-old doesn't even know how to fry an egg. You know, these two, you cannot put them on the same level. So if that one was to get married, she is ready to get married. This one, even though legally in Ontario, though it's fine, 16 with consent, she can even fry an egg. Are you going to get married to her? So to answer the question, this is a common misconception which people try to point to Islam. But Islamically, it's not allowed to marry a young girl. But what is young? A woman who's not ready for marriage. A woman who's not ready for marriage. So obviously you can't get married to a woman who's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. You can't. But this is relative with time, like we said, and place. A 9-year-old during my grandmother's age, I'm not talking about the Prophet's age 1400 years ago, my grandmother's age, which she told me personally. He said, we are during our time, you get married at 11, 12. And this is not even 100 years ago, because I met her and she talked to me.
My grandmother got married at 12.
Your grandmother got married at 12, and they were ready for it, and it was completely fun with the society. You have 13-year-olds giving birth here in Ontario, down in the United States. You know, yes, which is fine for them because it's her freedom. But if a Muslim was to do it, then there's a problem. But my point is, it's relative with time also. So back, if you go back 100 years, 200 years, 500 years, 600 years, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-olds, they were strong, they were mature already. And this is something our Prophet ﷺ told us. The humankind was created huge and strong. And as time goes, they become weak and small. And this is something proven, everybody knows that. So a 9-year-old then, Aisha was ready for marriage, radiallahu anha. And that is what you find in the society which she lived in, where there were so many enemies of Islam. None of them accused the Prophet ﷺ and pointed a finger at him and said, oh, you married a child. They called him so many other things. Listen carefully. Whoever asks you this doubt or tries to put this doubt across, oh, your Prophet got married to a child. No. Tell him, you know, those people who hated our Prophet and they fought him, they called him a sorcerer, magician. They call him a poet. He's not a prophet. They said he's crazy. They said he's possessed. Right? They said, oh, there's just people teaching him. They said these are legends of old. They said, oh, he doesn't have male children, so after he dies, he has no mention. They called him all of these things. But none of them, not even one, said even once, oh, you got married to a child molester. Because it was normal in their society. Plus, they knew that a woman at 9 years old then, she was ready for marriage. Of course, that is generally speaking, maybe others are not. It's like saying today, a woman who's 16 is ready for marriage. We're generally speaking, there might be others who are not, right? So it was completely fine for them.
Even in Europe.
In Europe, they used to do 7-year-olds during the same time, 6-year-old. So this is something we have to understand. It is young is relative by age and by place. But if you live in a country which has these laws, says 16 is the minimum age for marriage, then you follow the laws of that country. Why? Because today, again, like you see, people will point a finger at you, not you. People will point a finger to Islam. So nobody should come about today, so we have some of these brothers, I heard some of these brothers, crazy. Some of these brothers, they're crazy. They have not understood the religion. Say, I want to practice the sunnah of marrying a young girl, 9-year-old. That is not a sunnah, akhi. The Prophet ﷺ got married to a woman who was ready for marriage. Right now, I don't think you can find a 9-year-old who's mature enough and ready for marriage. And if you live in a country which says the minimum age for marriage is 16 with consent, or 18 if the woman can consent herself, which Islamically is not allowed because you have to have wali, then you follow that. You follow that. Wallahu a'lam. Wallahu a'lam.